They laughed in his face right there in front of everyone. The flight attendant didn't even try to hide her smirk when she told him to go wait with the others in the back. She saw his ticket, first class, but looked at his skin, his clothes, and decided he didn't belong. What she didn't know was who he really was, and what would happen before that plane touched the ground would leave the entire flight crew in absolute tears. If you think you know how this ends, think again. This is the kind of story that will restore your faith in justice, and show you why you should never, ever judge a book by its cover. Stick around because what happens next will shock you. Marcus Johnson was a quiet man. Humble. Reserved. The kind of guy who never liked making a scene. He worked hard, didn't dress flashy, and never needed to prove anything to anyone. But on this day he wasn't just another man catching a flight. He was coming back from something life-changing. Something no one at the airport could have guessed. He walked through the terminal with a simple duffel bag slung over his shoulder. No Gucci. No Rolex. Just a comfortable hoodie, clean jeans, and that quiet confidence you only get from surviving the storms of life. Marcus had just spoken at a global conference on community health, because what most people didn't know was that Marcus was a leading doctor, a pioneer in medical technology, and a philanthropist funding programs for underserved neighborhoods across the country. But to the flight attendant standing at the first-class gate, he was just another black man who looked out of place. "Sir," she said, looking him up and down with a frown, "this line is for first-class passengers only." He showed her his ticket. "I know," he said calmly, "that's why I'm here." But she didn't move. Instead, she gave a quick, forced chuckle and gestured toward the economy line. "You must be mistaken. Maybe one of your friends upgraded your seat as a joke." Her voice was cold. She didn't bother checking the scanner, didn't even ask for his ID. Behind him, other passengers, white, dressed in business suits and crisp dresses, were already being waved through. Some looked at Marcus and shook their heads, whispering. One man even laughed under his breath. "Yeah, right? First class." "Sure." Marcus said nothing. He wasn't angry. Not yet. But inside something shifted. The gate attendant made a show of it. "Security, can you escort this gentleman back to the appropriate gate?" "He's confused." Marcus stood still. He calmly pulled out his ID. His full name, Dr. Marcus Elijah Johnson, was clearly printed under a small Harvard Medical School emblem. Then he held up his ticket. "First class. Confirmed. Assigned seat, 1A. The most exclusive seat on the plane." Still, the woman didn't blink. "You probably borrowed that from someone?" "I need to speak with the original ticket holder." People were staring now. One mother grabbed her child and pulled her closer. A businessman smirked and mumbled, "This is getting ridiculous." The security guard approached, unsure, asking for Marcus's ID. When he saw it, his eyes widened slightly, but he still turned to the gate agent. "Ma'am, it's legit." But she was already on the phone, whispering to a supervisor. That's when the pilot walked by. Captain Thompson. A white man mid-50s with silver hair and a calm authority. He stopped in his tracks when he saw Marcus. "Dr. Johnson?" he said, surprised. "Are you flying with us today?" The gate agent froze. The crowd stopped whispering. "Yes, Captain," Marcus replied, his tone even. "Apparently there's been some confusion." The captain turned slowly to the gate agent. "This man is a guest of our airline. He helped save my sister's life. He belongs in seat 1A, and frankly he deserves better treatment than this." Silence. Absolute silence. The flight attendant looked like she'd seen a ghost. But the captain wasn't finished. "In fact," he added, "Dr. Johnson was just honored by the World Health Organization. You might want to Google him." Then he leaned in, voice low. "Or do you just assume black men in hoodies are criminals?" Gasps rippled through the gate. The businessman who laughed earlier turned red. The woman who clutched her child looked away. Suddenly, everyone realized what they'd done. How quick they were to judge. The gate agent's hands shook as she scanned Marcus's ticket. I'm sorry, sir," she stammered. "Please right this way." Marcus didn't gloat. He didn't even smile. He simply walked through the gate, his head high, while the room stood in stunned silence. But just as he stepped onto the jet bridge, something even more unbelievable happened. A passenger in line, a younger black man wearing a maintenance uniform, pulled Marcus aside. "Dr. Johnson," he said, "you don't remember me, but you saved my mom's life 2 years ago." When no one else would help her, you did. Marcus smiled gently and gripped the young man's shoulder. That's why I do what I do, he said. So that someone else can have a chance. Marcus boarded the plane and took his seat in 1A, thinking the worst was behind him. But just as the cabin door closed and the plane began to taxi, a new voice came over the intercom. It was the lead flight attendant. Ladies and gentlemen, we're experiencing an unexpected issue with one of our passengers in first class. We'll be delaying takeoff briefly. Marcus looked up, confused. The same gate agent who humiliated him earlier now walked down the aisle, this time with a supervisor and an air marshal behind her. She stopped at Marcus's seat, her face unreadable. Dr. Johnson, she said slowly, I'm afraid we need to have another word. Please step off the aircraft. Marcus stood slowly, every eye on the plane locked on him. Confusion swirled in his gut, but he kept his expression calm. May I ask why? He said, his voice low but steady. The supervisor didn't meet his gaze. There's been a discrepancy, he mumbled. We need to clarify it before takeoff. The air marshal didn't say a word, just hovered close, hand resting near his belt. The tension in the cabin was suffocating. Marcus picked up his duffel bag and followed them back up the aisle. Whispers echoed behind him. Some passengers averted their eyes. Others leaned in, hungry for drama. As he stepped off the plane, the lead flight attendant gave him a tight smile. It's probably just a misunderstanding. But Marcus knew better. He'd seen this play out too many times. Back in the terminal, he was led to a small glass-walled office. A man in a suit was already waiting, VP of Customer Relations according to his badge. Dr. Johnson, the man said carefully, it seems there was a report made. Someone suggested you may have boarded with a fraudulent ticket. Marcus stared at him. Are you serious? He asked. I scanned my ticket. I showed my ID. The captain recognized me. You really think I faked my way into first class? The VP shifted uncomfortably. It's standard procedure. We're obligated to follow up. Marcus could feel the pressure building in his chest. Not anger, disbelief. He had done everything right. Played by the rules. And still here he was being treated like a suspect. I want names, he said firmly. Who made this report? The VP hesitated. It was an anonymous tip from a crew member. Of course. The same flight attendant, trying to cover her tracks now that the story was spreading. She couldn't be the villain in a viral video, so she doubled down. But what she didn't realize was that Marcus had receipts. His assistant had already emailed copies of his itinerary, booking confirmation, payment receipt, and ID. And he had it all ready to go. Here, he said, handing the phone to the VP. Look for yourself. The VP scrolled through the documents, his face draining of color. This is very clear. I'm so sorry, Dr. Johnson. I'll speak with the crew immediately. But the damage was done. Marcus sat back in the chair, silent. The humiliation, the suspicion, the quiet endorsement of racism under the disguise of procedure. It stung more than he'd admit. A few moments later, the captain burst into the office, furious. What is going on here? He demanded. I just heard Dr. Johnson was pulled off my flight. This is unacceptable. The VP stammered an apology, but the captain cut him off. You people have no idea who you're messing with. He's not just a VIP, he's a national figure. He saved my sister's life. And you're treating him like a criminal? The captain turned to Marcus. You will be on that flight. In seat 1A. Or I'm not flying this plane. But before Marcus could respond, the air marshal's radio crackled. A voice on the other end said something urgent. He stepped away, listening closely, then turned back, his face pale. Sir, we may have a bigger issue, he said. We've just received word. Your name came up on a federal watch list. Marcus's heart stopped. What? The room went dead silent. That can't be right, the captain said. But the air marshal didn't blink. I need to verify this right now. Dr. Johnson, I'm going to have to ask you to remain here until we sort this out. Marcus stood frozen, jaw tight. This wasn't just discrimination anymore. Someone was trying to ruin him. But who? And why? And what exactly had been planted in his name? Just then Marcus's phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number. He opened it. One line of text stared back at him. Next time, stay in your place. Marcus stared at the message on his phone, his fingers tightening around it. Next time, stay in your place. 5 words. That's all it took to turn a confusing situation into something much darker. This wasn't a mix-up. This was a warning. A threat. A setup. He took a deep breath, trying to keep calm as the air marshal stepped back into the office with his phone still to his ear. "I'm escalating this to federal," the man said quickly. "We need to verify the source of this watchlist alert. It could be a clerical error or," he didn't finish the sentence. Marcus knew what he was thinking. Or someone with power was pulling strings to destroy him. The captain leaned in, his jaw clenched. "Dr. Johnson, do you have any idea why your name would be flagged?" Marcus shook his head. "None. I'm a physician. I've never been arrested. I've spoken at the UN for God's sake." The VP of Customer Relations was now frantically texting someone, trying to cover himself. "This must be a mistake. We're going to," but before he could finish, a uniformed man entered the room, tall and serious, with a government badge clipped to his belt. "Dr. Marcus Johnson," he said firmly. "We need to talk." Marcus stood. "Who are you?" The man flashed his badge. "Agent Willis, Homeland Security. We received a flag tip this morning linked to your name. A serious cyber breach targeting national hospital systems. Your credentials were found embedded in the code." Marcus's mind reeled. "What? That's impossible. I believe you," Willis cut in. "But we have to treat it seriously. If someone's using your credentials, it's not just identity theft, it's an act of digital terrorism." Suddenly everything made sense. His name on a no-fly list. The anonymous tip. The timing. This wasn't just racism, it was a coordinated attack. Someone wanted to discredit him. Destroy him. And they had access to his professional records. "This isn't random," Marcus said slowly. "Someone planted that code to frame me." Willis nodded. "I agree. But we need to prove it." Marcus sat back down. "Where do we start?" Willis pulled out a tablet. "We traced the breach to a hotel Wi-Fi network in Boston. Do you know anyone who would have had access to your laptop in the last 48 hours? Marcus thought for a second, then a face flashed in his mind. Derek. A former colleague turned bitter rival. They worked together at a biotech startup until Marcus uncovered shady billing practices and reported it to the board. Derek was fired. Publicly humiliated. And he'd vowed revenge. "There's one name," Marcus said. "Derek Cole." Willis typed rapidly. "We're pulling his profile now." "Wait." His face darkened. "You need to see this." He turned the tablet around. Derek had been arrested 6 months ago for insider trading. Charges were dropped, but not before he'd ranted in a court filing that Marcus ruined his life. But there was something else. He recently took a contract with a security firm, one that specializes in cyber forensics, Willis said. He had the tools, the motive, and access. Marcus nodded grimly. "Then he's behind this." Willis stood. "We're going to open a formal investigation. But until we clear your name, I can't let you fly." Marcus clenched his jaw. "He wants this. He wants me grounded, silenced, humiliated." Willis's eyes narrowed. "Well, he made a mistake. Because now I'm involved. And I don't like being used either." Back in the terminal, passengers were still whispering. Some recorded videos. Others searched Marcus's name online, unsure what to believe. Headlines were already spinning. Doctor removed from flight after cybersecurity alert. A media circus was forming. Just then, a woman approached Marcus, a journalist holding a mic and a camera crew in tow. "Dr. Johnson," she said breathlessly, "do you have a comment? Is it true you were removed because of a federal investigation?" He looked at her, his eyes clear. "I have nothing to hide. I'm the one who's being targeted. But I promise, whoever did this is going to regret it." Willis tapped his shoulder. "Dr. Johnson, we have confirmation. Derek just boarded a private jet in D.C., destination unknown. He's on the move." Marcus nodded slowly, heart pounding. "Then we better move faster." Willis leaned in. "I've got a plan to bait him. But it's risky. You'd have to go public. Make it look like you're cornered. Expose your story, your side, before the media twists it." Marcus looked at the waiting cameras. "Let's do it." But just as they prepared the press conference, a woman burst into the room. It was the young black man from earlier, the maintenance worker. His face was pale. His voice shook. "Dr. Johnson, you're in danger." I overheard something. That flight, it wasn't just delayed because of you. Someone planted something. On board. Everyone froze. Marcus stepped forward. What do you mean? The young man swallowed hard. A device. In first class. The pilot wasn't supposed to survive. Marcus felt the air in the room shift. A device, in first class. The words echoed, impossible to ignore. The maintenance worker, Terrence, his name tag read, was trembling. I wasn't supposed to hear it, he stammered. Two guys from catering. One of them said, make sure the package is under 1A. It has to look like an accident. I didn't think much of it, until I saw you get pulled off the plane. Marcus's blood ran cold. Seat 1A. His seat. Agent Willis snapped into action. Get TSA. Evacuate that aircraft now. He grabbed his radio and barked into it. Code Delta. I repeat, Code Delta on Flight 384. Within seconds, alarms blared, passengers screamed, and the plane, just minutes from takeoff, was swarmed by agents in tactical gear. The crew was evacuated, the tarmac sealed. Marcus watched from the terminal window as they opened the plane's cabin, methodically scanning every inch. Then came the call. We found something, a voice crackled over the radio. Under seat 1A. Looks like a tampered auxiliary battery, wired wrong. Could have sparked a fire mid-flight. The crowd in the terminal gasped. The gate agent who humiliated Marcus earlier was now in tears. The pilot, Captain Thompson, stood stone-faced, fury in his eyes. They were going to kill me, Marcus muttered. No, Willis corrected. They were going to kill you. Marcus sank into a chair, the weight of it all crashing down. This wasn't just racism. This was a hit job orchestrated by someone with the power, and the hate, to end lives. The news broke within minutes. Breaking. Attempted sabotage on commercial flight foiled after Black doctor removed from plane. Headlines exploded across every network. Footage of Marcus being denied boarding. The quiet calm with which he handled it. The confrontation with the captain. The tears in the gate agent's eyes. The public now had a front row seat to the truth, and it was damning. But the story didn't end there. Later that day, in a federal briefing room in Washington, D.C., Marcus stood beside Agent Willis and a panel of officials. Cameras rolled as the Department of Homeland Security laid out the evidence. Derek Cole, former colleague, now disgraced tech specialist, had hacked Marcus's credentials, planted false code in hospital systems, and sold access to foreign data firms. When Marcus's name started gaining national praise for his medical innovations, Derek feared exposure. So he did what cowards do, tried to erase the truth by destroying the man behind it. He didn't just want to ruin my career, Marcus said at the press conference. He wanted to erase my legacy. To make the world see a threat instead of a healer. And for a moment it almost worked. But I wasn't alone. He gestured to Terrence, who had the courage to speak up. To the captain, who recognized the injustice and stood by him. To Agent Willis, who listened instead of assuming. This isn't just about me, Marcus continued. This is about every black person who's ever been told they don't belong. Every person of color who's been judged before they've spoken. Every dreamer whose truth was buried by bias. Today we say no more. The crowd erupted in applause. Reporters shouted questions. Cameras flashed. A week later, Marcus returned to the airport, this time not as a suspect but as a guest of honor. The airline issued a full public apology. The gate agent was suspended pending internal review. And the CEO personally escorted Marcus onto his flight, presenting him with a lifetime first-class membership. But before boarding, Marcus turned to the cameras one last time. I don't want your pity. I want your change. Not just for me, but for every young kid watching this, wondering if it's worth it to keep pushing, to keep believing. Let this be the moment we stop judging books by their covers, and start reading their pages. As he took his seat, again in 1A, he looked to his left and saw a young boy staring. The boy was black, about 10 years old, flying for the first time. He looked nervous. Marcus smiled, leaned over, and said, "You know what's special about seat 1A?" The boy shook his head. "It's where dreams refuse to be grounded." The plane took off.